Hey friends, my name is Randi Brown and I'm a speech language pathologist and AAC specialist. I love all things speech therapy, so I started a podcast to sit down with different people to talk about it. So whether you're an SLP or someone just interested in the world of speech therapy, come join me today for our episode of Talking with Randi. Hello and welcome to another new episode. Well, I shouldn't say another. I mean a new episode of Talking with Randi. I know it's been a minute, but I'm back. I'm ready to put out some new podcast episodes so more of us can connect about AAC together. So today I have two guests and it's going to be a fun one. I'm super excited because I think this is something that can be applied in so many different contexts and varieties of ways. But I have new friends, Cici and Candace, here to share about Storytime with AAC and then also just a little bit about their SLP careers and stuff like that. So welcome, Cici and Candace. Hello. I'm going to do introductions. Perfect. I'm going to do introductions really quick and then we'll get going. So Cici is an SLP by trade and currently is an assistive technology specialist for Leander ISD, which is outside of Austin, Texas. She helps provide educators, families, and students with services and technology to strengthen their path to a meaningful future. And Candace is a licensed SLP and clinical assistant professor at the University of Texas at Austin. She teaches graduate level speech path courses and supervises students in the clinic. Her rotation specializes in providing services to individuals who use AAC. So welcome, Cici and Candace.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
Okie dokie. So whoever wants to go first or however you guys want to share, I'd love to hear about your personal paths to becoming speech pathologists. How did you get started? What made you decide that this was right for you? I'd love to hear it.
Sure. Yeah. So I definitely knew I wanted to work with kids when I was younger, but I definitely was like, I do not want a full classroom. Do not give me more than 4 students, right?
Yeah.
And then even before that, I thought, oh, maybe I want to be a doctor, but then got super scared of taking chemistry. And somewhere along the way, I had, right? I had some camp counselors that were speech pathologists, and they were taking sign language courses, and I thought that was so cool. So shout out to, my camp counselor, Meredith Foxon, who just inspired me to be an SLP, and the rest is history. And I've been an SLP since my daughter was, just 4 weeks old. I took my very first job and just have hit the ground running for 17 years. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So have you been in the same school district the whole 17 years?
No. Yeah. So I was at a couple different school districts and did a really short stint in some private practice, but have pretty much just stuck with the schools, and I've always loved the schools. Another fun thing I get to do is I do teach a graduate class for an AAC course for a university as well. So that's really fun.
Oh, that's so fun. I actually can resonate with that. I have mainly been in schools. I did a short stint in private practice, and I was like, I love being a school SLP. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. All right, Candace, let's hear about your journey.
Yes, it was definitely a journey. It was a little bit more non-traditional. Way back when, I actually started as a computer science major. Which didn't stick in the end. I didn't want to be programming all day long, but, that just reflects my love of technology. In the end, I graduated. It was called Recreation Management and Youth Leadership. I actually worked in special events for a few years and also as a recreation therapy assistant at a nursing facility. And then I took a few years off to stay at home with my kids. But I wanted to go back to school, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew it was something different, and I really enjoyed helping people and connecting to people as a recreation therapy assistant, but just wanted something a little different, and stumbled onto speech, and just so many things interested me. I like learning languages, and even acoustics and music, and of course AAC. So I was able to go back to graduate school, and then after graduating, I worked in the schools. So I did get to work with as a school SLP, and then also with Cici for a couple years as an assistive technology specialist before I took on my role here at UT Austin.
Oh, that's awesome. I think it's neat, like that SLP as a profession. I feel like you can have like a lot of different like hobbies or interests in different areas. And I don't know, you wouldn't think that SLP would be like a landing point for some of those things, but I totally agree. Like I've always been a grammar English person. Like I used to edit papers for friends in high school. And I just like, now that I'm an SLP, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But it's really neat how you had different kind of interests, especially with your almost pursuit of computer science. But
I was just the kid that got caught talking in line and, was just talking all the time. So there you go. That makes total sense. That's what I ended up doing.
Yes. One of my friends' dad. Yes. No, one of my friends' dads, he always jokes. He's like, well, no one's surprised that Randy's a speech therapist. Good grief. She talks enough for all of us. And so, it all makes sense. Okay, well, thank you guys for sharing that. So now that we know kind of what led you to SLP, so how did you become interested and then proficient with AAC? Because I think you can definitely be interested in AAC, but I do feel like it takes a lot of work and learning to become really proficient to speak that language and to be able to really execute that well as a therapist. So I'd love to hear about how you guys kind of arrived where you are specifically with AAC.
Yeah, Candace, go ahead.
Okay. Well, kind of like I mentioned, AAC was one of the reasons that I was interested in speech language pathology to begin with. When I went to grad school, I actually went to UT Austin, the same department I work in now. But at the time, there weren't a lot of opportunities in AAC in my program. I think we mentioned it like one day,
Wow.
Yeah. But it was something I loved. Like I had to do a master's report, and I did mine on augmentative reality in therapy, just from that tech piece. But then I graduated, and as I was, working in the schools, I was just really excited for all my AAC clients that came my way, and that's what I really, anytime there was a continuing education opportunity in AAC, I jumped on it. And I think just over time, I kind of became known as, someone who was comfortable around AAC. And then built enough, knowledge that I was able to become an AT specialist. And I learned a lot from Cici working with her because she had even more experience. And from there, it just snowballs, again, looking for those opportunities. I tell my students all the time that, in graduate school, we can, there's so much to speech language pathology, so broad. And we can't even talk about everything that we want to talk about in graduate school. And if there's something you're interested in, you just look for those opportunities. And then again, you just get a reputation, and then people start seeking you out, and then you just become that person. We're not necessarily, most of us don't get to be like just an AAC specialist, or just a fluency specialist or whatever, or maybe a feeding specialist, but we don't always get to specialize, but you just kind of unofficially specialize, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. I think if you put in the time and effort to work on, okay, I really want to learn a lot about this. You're totally right. People on your team, you start slowly getting phone calls and then more and more phone calls until it's just obvious, okay, this is, if you need something for AT, you call Candace. For sure. I think that's a good encouragement for graduate students too, because I would imagine it, I'm trying to think back to when I was in graduate school, but I do remember feeling oh my gosh, there's so much, the scope is so wide, it's so wide. And so I think it's just a good
encouragement. How am I ever going to be good at all of it? That's
yes. And it's almost refreshing, I think, for them to know you don't have to be good, or you need to be good at all of it, I guess, in a sense, but it's not you have to be specialist level in all of it. You can pursue a specialty in speech pathologist. So many of us are. So yeah, for sure. Okay, well, Cici, how did you get to where you are with AAC?
Yeah. Well, so the very first device I ever got to work with was this device called the Tango, and it was this round, long, tubular kind of thing, and it had like 6 buttons on it, and you had to scroll through all these buttons in order to get to the message that you wanted. And I remember working with this girl with it, and she had so much language, but then was sitting there like scrolling through all these pre-stored phrases. And I just thought, this is wild. Like, why would anybody put this device with this girl, right? It just wasn't that feature matching, like, did not happen. And then I slowly just kind of started to see, and really we just gave up on that device. I really didn't know a lot of anything. Thankfully, my service center in San Antonio at the time really taught me a lot, which was awesome. And then I kind of got forced into like a voluntold into being an AT specialist at a smaller district outside of where I worked there. And again, I kind of just slowly started to learn more. I learned a lot from some device reps there. Tracy Custer, shout out to her, love her from PRC. She just retired. And just again, asking a lot of questions from a lot of other people who came before me, and they knew what they were doing. Then moved to Tennessee, and then learned a lot about LAMP there, and just really fell in love with that. And more of the mobile technology was like starting to pick up more, right? Apps, things like that. We weren't necessarily just on the like designated devices. Lots of light tech and mid tech I was learning there. Came back to Texas, and I just really knew that's what I wanted to do. And then it happened like COVID time. We were in this group meeting, and I was like, I just really want to be an AT specialist. And my friend said, well, we have a new AT position opening up. And I had no idea at the time. And so I just happened to, put that out there, and then applied and got to, really start to work in this field. But I think, like Candace said, you really have to be a lifelong learner in our field, no matter what. One, because there's so much changing, right, with communication and strategies, and of course, technology and what we do, especially. And so I think that going into it, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I still do from time to time. But then also knowing you're never going to know everything, and that's okay. So, but being a lifelong learner, you're always going to start to like pursue more and more and more, right? You didn't know this, but now this next piece of information, and you may not know this yet, but you're going to find this person to ask questions to, or this podcast, or this conference, or whatever. And so that's what really I feel like has made me be maybe an AAC specialist, but more hopefully than anything, just wanting to continue to learn about AAC.
I always say that none of us are really AAC experts. We're just willing to poke a lot of buttons and try a lot of stuff out.
That's right.
That is such a good way to put it. Gosh, I could not agree more. I think like there's so much humility in being able to say, like, I feel like I know a lot about this, but I am going to continue to learn and push, especially I think that's super important to be a lifelong learner, no matter who you are, no matter what your career is. But I think it's especially interesting for us who work with kiddos who have complex needs, like super complex needs. And then also us who work in technology, because tech does change and tech does adapt, and tech should be making our lives better, but not just our lives, our AAC users. And so like, I think that's been a good challenge for me to think like, how can I use tech to make life easier for my students and my teachers? And so, but with that comes the demand of continuing to learn. Like sometimes it's so easy to just stay in what we're comfortable with, or I have even found myself like that, and I know this is wrong, with like language systems. Like I used to just favor LAMP so much, like and I think I've really opened my eyes as I've been working on this project to create like a new AAC app. It's really opened my eyes to pay attention to what really works. Not dogging LAMP. I think LAMP is great for some kids. But just, I've really opened my eyes to like, what works, what doesn't work, what needs to change, what would be better, things like that. And I think we just need to have like a lot of openness to to change and to continue to learn. Oh, I wanted to add another thing about what you guys said. Both of you guys, what is interesting, and I really resonate with this from your AAC learning journey, is that it seems like you've learned a lot from like other professionals who were kind of doing the same thing you were doing. Like you said, not like just like continuing to pursue AAC. And I don't know if you guys get asked this a lot, but a lot of times other SLPs, when I'm teaching at like conferences, they'll be like, well, how did you become an AAC specialist? And I always say the most, or almost said the most best, that's not correct grammar, but the best thing that has happened for me is the interpersonal like mentorship and collaboration. Like other SLPs who are willing to learn AAC and share their knowledge, and device reps also echo that. They are so great. I have my local PRC friend coming out in 2 weeks to help me with the kiddo. But I think that there's a lot of great PD out there for AAC. However, I think if you have someone who really in your corner who can just kind of take you along the ride, sometimes I think hands-on learning is going to be so much more effective with AAC. So, yeah, for sure.
I love that for sure.
Yeah. Do you guys have any like AAC like PDs that you feel like have like really changed you or resonated with you, or like CEs that you did?
There's just so many free options out there, and we do, you know, looking at like AAC in the cloud, and like a lot of the commercial app companies have opportunities out there. There's so much out there. I mean, I think CC has an extensive document that outlines all of them. I think that it can get overwhelming. Yeah, there is a lot. Yeah, for sure.
I think everything out of like UNC Chapel Hill, everything that they started with the Project Core was so foundational as well for any SLP that's starting out. And then, any of the free trainings from, you know, PRC, from Toby Dynavox, you know, those are super helpful. And AAC in the cloud, and you know, that's really what started this project, was AAC in the cloud. So, you know, we super grateful to anyone that puts out free stuff, and then also of course, you know, taking that learning further as well. You know, Candace and I both have presented at ATIA, so we loved you know, going and learning there. Closing the Gap is another really great AAC conference, and both loved presenting at as well. So those are really good ones if you get the chance to go and travel.
Yes. Which ATIA? Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I really like that you mentioned like the hands-on component, because Cici and I, you know, we train and support teachers, and so many times they will tell us like, I've not been trained on this. And we know they've had a little introductory lesson, and, you know, they know the basics, or even maybe they've had multiple trainings and they still don't feel like they've been trained on it. But what they really mean is, I haven't gotten to put my hands on this and try to use it myself, which is really hard for our teachers. They don't have spare time to sit and play around with it. But I just think, like you said, like just getting your hands on some of the equipment, a lot more giving free trials out. And so that's really helpful. But just if you can, you know, get access to something and just start playing around with it. Cici and I both had games that we played to make ourselves fluent. I would look at storybooks, and then I would type out what was in the storybook. Cici, I know, like to sing some of her favorite songs with her AAC system.
I would turn on musicals and, you know, find like a line from the musical, and then, you know, type it on my device. And then usually songs, you know, come back around to the chorus. So then, like, can I find it faster this time? And so, that's really how I got to really learn. And I'm still learning. I was watching, is it Nancy Brown who created Touch Chat, right? Anyway, at UCIA, and just to see her, she's so fast. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I really need to spend more time practicing on Touch Chat, because I haven't in a while. And anyway, so it's practice. It's just like typing, playing the piano, whatever you want to, you know, video games. It's practice. So the more you do it, the faster it gets.
I'm going to steal that for my teacher trainings, to pick up like popular songs and have them see how fast they can type out lines. Because I do like activities where I like have them pick toys, and they have to pick like target words that they would work on with each toy. But I think that another additional component that teachers would like is using songs, because everyone has media that they like and songs they like. So that, note to everyone listening, if you're doing teacher trainings with AAC, incorporate like a song competition. That'd be so fun. Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've got to do a training on Monday, so maybe I'm going to add that in too.
Yeah. I do feel like I have noticed anytime I can make something like competition based, people are like way more in. And like, I shouldn't be surprised by that. Like anytime I like go to like, we'll have like our local region come in and do PDs, and they always like have cahoots, and I'm so in it. I like, it's so silly. Like we all like love that, like fun, competitive. Well, maybe not all of us. I like it.
We've also done printed big core board posters, made 2 of them. So one of them they have Velcro core words, and then had like Team Polo Co to Go versus Team Lamp, and then we'd have the teachers like match all of the core words. So that was a fun little competition.
Because we all know it's like the familiarity is what helps the carryover. Like the more they feel comfortable with it, the more they're going to be likely to carry it over. That's awesome. Okay. Okay, well, let's get into story time. I am so excited. So I just want you guys to share anything you want to about story time. I'm thinking first, like, what was your inspiration? And like, how long have you guys been doing this? But what was your inspiration, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So I was listening to AAC in the Cloud in 2024, and was listening to, and if I butcher these names, I'm so sorry, but Sabina D'Souza, who's a mom of an AAC user, and she's a program coordinator for a library in California. And then Elena Duchovny is an SLP professor out there. And then Polina Rubanova is the librarian. Anyway, so I loved this combination, right? SLP, AAC mom, who's also the library coordinator, and then the librarian. And I just started hearing how this mom was so invested. It was her library, right? She was working at, and she was like, I see all these great activities, but I don't see one for my own kid who's an AAC user. And I know that the library is so important, but my own daughter like doesn't have necessarily, I mean, she did, but doesn't have her thing here. And so she really wanted to build something and create something that could, welcome kids with AAC devices to, the best place, which is, we think, the library. And she thinks so too. And we had this beautiful new library opening up in our area. And, Candace loves the library. She used to live right next to the old library. So she was just like, on board right away. And she was just moving into this professor role. And so I thought, okay, like we've got this, right? We've got kids, we've got students. And so, so I'll let her tell you more about that connection with the students and what she gets to do with it.
Yeah. So basically we have our families sign up for Storytime. It's really, Cici has a direct link to a lot of the families in our direct community through her work in the school, but also we reach out to private clinics and just anybody in the area. But it's all on the library website. So they sign up. Then we pick the stories and the activities, and the librarian helps us gather materials. So we've been mostly using the PRC literacy planners for inspiration. They're kind of evolving over time, but we find that they're really they make it so easy to put that together. Then I ask for student volunteers, and then also we work with Texas State as well. And so we have undergraduate and graduate students come. There's like an asynchronous orientation module just to kind of introduce them to the ideas of like shared reading and supporting literacy for complex communicators. And then we have story time. So we show up, Cici or I will read the story out loud. We have slides so the whole group can see, and also some copies of the book. We walk around the room. We try to use those shared reading strategies. And then our graduate and undergraduate students will kind of pair up with a little family, and they are modeling and they're supporting. And it's just win for everybody involved. It's really, we just love it so much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really been the highlight of, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. Go ahead and finish.
I was going to say, it's really been the highlight of my month every month. I just look forward to it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it's Saturday. Sure wish I could just stay in my cozy bed maybe. But then Candace and I leave every month just like, that was the best one yet. And we're just, we just love it so much. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is like such a like slam dunk for so many reasons. I have like a logistics question. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reader, are you modeling on a specific system, or are you just handing that off to the graduate students who are sitting with the families? Because I'm sure kids are all coming using different systems.
Yeah, absolutely. They are. And I love that because it really mirrors what our classrooms look like right now. We have lots of kids on lots of different systems. And so it is a good way for our graduate students to kind of see like, oh, I might have, one kid on one device and one kid on another system. So typically one graduate student has that AAC app or, system sitting next to the family that has that kid with their AAC device.
Okay.
And then on the board up at the top, we have some generic symbols, lesson picks, right?
Sure.
So we kind of just use
love lesson picks.
We love lesson picks. Just saw Beth Poss at ATIA, and she's just, I love her to death.
It's great.
So we again that like kind of teaching pattern to the students, like, yes, the symbols might look different, but those core words are going to be what's repetitive, and we're always going to go back to those words. And so does that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah, that does. I was just curious because I think that's something that I do shared reading in every single classroom that I go to. I have 3 classes that I serve at the school district that I work at, and shared reading is a part of speech every single week in every single classroom. And I have one classroom that all kids are on the same system. It just kind of randomly, actually, no, that's not true. They're on 2 different systems, and all my classrooms are on 2 different systems. And so when we do shared reading, I will kind of pick the target vocabulary, and I'll just kind of toggle, like I'll use both devices, but sometimes you got to keep moving pretty quick to keep kids in the game. And so sometimes I'm like, oh man. So what's been best for me in that situation is one of the paras will sit next to the kiddo who's using the system that I'm not modeling on, and she'll model. So that's kind of been my solution to that. Yeah. But I think that that's a perfect setup because you're using symbols, and also Lesson Picks uses symbols that our kiddos who are receiving instruction in self-contained classrooms, they're used to seeing, is it symbol sticks? Is that what they use on Lesson Picks?
Yeah, sometimes, symbol sticks or, Lesson Picks symbols. The artist drawn symbols,
Yes, and so I think our kiddos are already used to seeing a lot of symbols like that, and so I think it that totally works because you have that on the slide, and then you kind of have the individualization throughout with your students, and so that's a really neat opportunity for graduate students to volunteer and be able to participate in that.
Yeah, because some of them are coming in without any experience yet. Sometimes we get them at the beginning of Candace's semester or our other professor, Brittany's semester. So they're just brand new to that AAC, learning. And, or they might come in towards the end of the semester and they have gotten to practice, or they have gotten to, try some apps out, or maybe they haven't had a school placement yet. So I love that they're getting something real world that's not clinical based, it is in the community, and how you would encourage a family to, read with a storybook. So it's also kind of home based too, because, maybe they might share how to do some of those strategies at home too. So I love that. I feel like the graduate student piece is so sweet and just really, really meaningful and rewarding, especially for us to just really empower, these students to help make those connections for reading with those families.
Yeah. And I think it helps them. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say they get an opportunity also for some parent coaching, that they're there side by side, which depending on your setting, sometimes you don't get as much face time with parents as you want. That's really good. It's so important in AAC. And also, again, Cici and I found that I love that you're doing shared reading, Randi, but I just feel like a lot of times we find it with AAC, we're just, we try to get access and we try to get modeling and we go down the list. And then the last thing on the list is literacy.
Literacy.
It's so important.
I know. Oh,
so
yes.
I think even, many of our, maybe not like, really into AAC, but our good SLPs, a lot of times it's just kind of like ends up on the bottom of the pile. And so, we were just, Cici said to me, she's like, we're just going to skip right to literacy and we're just going to focus on that and it's good for our students to see that because it's very important for our AAC users to have literacy skills.
Yes, for sure. And I think I have recently been reading Comprehensive Literacy for All. I've been chunking away at it the last year and a half. But it's hunky, but it's such a good book. And so I've started doing, as part of my push-in therapy, we do a literacy center every week of some kind. And a shared reading. And I think it's been so impactful for me to it's I've always believed this, but just to see how to tangibly help our kiddos who are complex communicators become readers and writers, because we have kiddos who have great potential for literacy. And it breaks my heart that we have kiddos who are leaving us in high school without proficient reading and writing skills when they could. And so I think
and the research tells us about 80 to 90% of those, not just, some kids, but 80 to 90% of those kids with receiving complex language needs, including kids that have AAC, don't have adequate literacy skills, right? And so that's huge. And that was something when I told the librarians that, they got it because they know
they care.
They care. Yeah. And so I think anyone that's maybe a little hesitant about reaching out to the librarians, tell them that statistic. And I can cite it for us too in the show notes, but tell them that information so that way they get it, right? They get literacy. They want kids to read. And so, our librarian was so great. We love Amanda and we're just so thankful for her. And also we have her information too in the show notes and the resources. So if anybody wants to, my librarian wants to talk to your librarian.
That's awesome.
She's super eager to help other libraries start this program in other parts, anywhere. She can help speak that library talk, she definitely knew this is important,
I love that. Yes, we'll share those resources with you guys. I will make sure that happens. Okay, so I'd love to hear an example, maybe the most recent one you did. What was the book you read and what were some of the activities? Because I think sometimes hearing real life examples helps the rest of us think of how we could apply it. So I'd love to hear maybe one that you've done recently. So I'm going off script here.
That's okay. No, we got it. So Candace is always so great. And she talks about how she has this computer science background, but really she is a computer guru. She makes the slides every month, but in addition to that, she's very, very techie. So she makes the slides every month that have our story. And she's also gotten a great hello song and even just hi, my name's, and thankfully it works because it's both of us. My name's Candace or my name's Cici. My name starts with a C. Let's find your, name of your first, your letter of your first name. So we're doing a little bit of that, initial sound identification and again, getting parents kind of involved and that's something you do with, your kiddos.
And let me jump in also. Oh no, my device doesn't have a keyboard. I can't do the first letter of my name. So this is our little sneaky side quest here is having parents realize, I don't have those core words. Can we help you get those core words? I don't have letters on this device. Can we help you get those letters on that device and helping them see all along the way? Sorry to jump in, Cici. You continue with this most recent one we just did.
That definitely has been a great little bonus thing. We're not here to bash anybody as set up or anything like that. However, we definitely want kids to have access to letters and sounds and core words, right?
Feature matching is important.
Yeah. So if we haven't set up that device, we might encourage the family, like, hey, talk to your SLP about this, or let me show you how to add it real quick. And they're usually like, okay, great, so yeah, we have gotten to also just, make sure they have a lot of those robust features, right? That we want all kids to have. Okay. So we do our slides, and then, we start reading the book. So I might stand in the front, and Candace and the grad students and our other SLP professor, Brittany, might be going around and talking with the other families. The way we have our room set up is that it's like one family and kid and their caregivers per like a desk size table. Yeah. And, or kids can walk around or sit on, little carpet square kind of things if they want to. And we are going through the book. Oh, and then some people have copies of the book as well on some of the tables. Cool. We don't always have one for everybody, just because books cost money. But we usually have, one per couple of tables. And Candace has put some great core words on the story. So this past one was...
Be brave, little penguin.
Be brave, little penguin. And it was so great. It was like one kid, he'd never been there before, and it was his absolute favorite book. And so the family was just so excited. They're like, that we've never come before, and you're reading his favorite book. So that was really cool.
I bet that touched their hearts. That's so sweet.
Yes. Yeah. And he was a brand new AAC user. So it was so fun. And then, so our librarian is always great. We kind of make a little list for her for different things that she can pull from all the library resources. So she had a penguin puppet. We got some ice, and because penguins live where it's cold. She had someone else maybe 3D print some little sea animals. So it went along with the story, and. And so along the way, I'll stop and kind of do the car strategy. So comment, ask, respond, things like that. And then I'm also giving a lot of, and Candace too, whoever's, reading that time is like, okay, parents, now you touch the button, because, sometimes they might hear that word modeling a lot, but then they're still asking a lot of questions. And, we are trying to constantly be like, okay, comments over questions. And so we'll just say, okay, and just really obvious, like, okay, parents, you find the word go, or you find the word in, or now it's your turn. And let's see if mom or dad can find it. And that's really good because it just gets them in the game, and gets them involved. So that's really fun. You want to tell them about the craft and break time?
Yeah, and so there's also a craft. And again, our librarian is really great about getting together the materials. Usually it's just simple, construction paper type crafts. And when we're doing that, we put up a model of the activity. We used to have slide instructions, but people work at different paces. And so they do have a copy of the instructions on their table. They're also usually very simple, and we have a finished model. And then also reminding them, while you're making this craft, don't forget to be modeling some of these target words. So every book we do has, about 4 core words and 1 or 2 fringe words that we are highlighting. Of course, all words are good. Also we are making something. And so we talk about, that's another great core word. So we include that after we read the book, but before we get into the more hands-on stuff at the craft and maybe a sensory activity, then we have a break. And right now the books that we are going through are animal related. And so we pull up one of those live feeds from a zoo.
Cool. And just
take 5 minutes. Yeah, I love them. They're really fun. But just to give everyone a brain break, if the kids need to wander off, that's another thing, is that we, make sure we tell parents that, if you need to leave, you're welcome, leave, come back. You don't have to sit. This is not your old school story time. It's kind of a big, it can be noisy. When we try to support, we are all very understanding and welcoming, and hopefully that's good for parents to see also, just there is room for them in the library.
Yeah. And to have people there who like understand, and like it's not like a surprise that maybe a friend is loud or needs to have movement, or like I think that's got to be so refreshing. I know that my friends who have kiddos with disabilities, you know, they feel isolated a lot of the time, even though they have community around them, because it's, you know, not always a shared experience. And I think you're connecting families together, but then also you're creating a place that is like, you bring your kid as they are. If you need to leave, that's not a problem. I just like, you're right. It is a win across the board. I love it. I think this is so cool. So we've already talked a little bit about it, some of the benefits that you see, but do you guys have like any like benefits that really stick out to you from the story time, or something that's been like really meaningful that you've seen?
Well, I think always kids that are coming, kids that are invested with their families, I really wish I could have, I need to like create a study or something like that. But I feel like their outcomes for reaching their speech and language goals has got to be so much higher. I just feel it in my heart.
I bet. Yeah.
And, so I really see the benefit of like parents seeing their students using their device in a new way, right? Which is reading books or making a craft, or not just requesting like a food item, which is a lot of times, you know, where sometimes maybe families start and maybe get stuck. It feels like it kind of opens a door, right? And so I think it shows them not only a lot of great strategies for what not to do, right? Like something like don't ask as many questions and maybe give them a little more wait time, but what the power of what they can do, right? So I can, you know, talk about what's going on around me. I can, you know, look at the silly videos and talk about it. You know, we have one little girl every month who like loves to like go and show all the other friends her little craft, and it's my favorite part. And she just is so consistent and does it, and I'm just like, yes, like that is so powerful, right? And then
yes, it
you know, we're, you know, modeling words as she's going around and showing everyone her craft. And so I think that's just such a great benefit, is seeing, you know, that device being used out in public, and the power and potential of all those different like language and communication functions.
Yeah.
And just to add on to that, also just so it's great. Number one, for the kids who are coming. I mean, number two, for the parents. Number three, for our graduate, our pre-service clinicians. And then also just community awareness, everyone else around that just happens to be at the library that day. And then they're seeing, you know, and also their children who are there, you know, if we're all playing in the children's area, just, you know, that there are individuals who use AAC and they are coming in with their devices out in public. And this is what, you know, just trying to raise AAC awareness for people who maybe aren't part of this world like we are. There's even, I mean, recently we've had, or our rooms are getting fuller and fuller, which is great. We're happy that we are, our attendance has been great, but originally it was a little slow going. Maybe we had a couple times and we had lower attendance. And so we just went out into the children's area and just invited families who don't use AAC to come because they could benefit as well. Yeah. And that was really fun too, because it was just, again, trying to incorporate bringing those peers, you know, and, you know, letting other children see, and hopefully they see at school, but just, you know, just a very 100% inclusive environment that we can just, you know, raise awareness. So it's just good for the whole community, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. It's so good for other kiddos to see their peers their age using AAC, and for them to like, you know, also I think what's neat about that is if you are in a situation where you're pulling in some peers that are maybe more typically developing, because usually at school it's our kiddos who are learning to adapt to the world around them, but in that situation it's the environment that's built for our AAC kiddos, and then our other kiddos get to experience being immersed in their world. I think that's super cool. So yeah, slam dunks across the board, man. Now I'm like, I want to have an AAC story time, which we have a really nice library here in my town. So I'm going to have to get with some of my buddies.
Yeah. Well, again, shout out to this team back in California, because really we just like copied and pasted their exact program. We, reached out to them and got permission and all that good stuff. And she was so generous to share everything. And I really just wanted to use exactly what she was using. One, because probably I just like didn't have the brain capacity at the time to like make something new. And two, I really wanted to tell other people that like, you could just take this and you don't have to do anything else. You can just use exactly what they were using and we're using, and it's already done for you. And then I did create a couple other resources. So, we created like a template that you could use to reach out to a public library. We kind of were just thinking through like brainstorming some like, hey, don't forget this, like a mic is really helpful. And so there's some other good resources. And then there's all the visuals that we use in the library. So core boards, and then like strategies for families are in there, strategies for kids while we're there at the library. So those kinds of things are all included in the resources that we share for this. And we definitely want anyone to use them and copy and paste, just go out there and try.
Thank you for being so willing to share that. Yeah, I was excited. I think Cici, you and I were both tagged in it on Facebook as one of, I think, your friends started an AAC Storytime in Fort Worth. And I was like, yeah, that's so exciting. So that's so cool to see other people duplicate
and she said that went really well. So that first one, it was Laura,
that's so cool.
Candace. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, I know. I need to connect with her. I think that maybe we've met, maybe in passing. I'm not sure, but I know who she is, so we need to connect. Okay, so kind of going to grad students for a second. Something that I like asking guests is if you had to give like your best AAC advice or even just general advice to SLP grad students, what would you offer them? I like this question because I think when I was in graduate school, I loved like getting like just helpful tips for the real world of being an SLP. And so I want to be able to give that. So what kind of advice would you guys give, especially around AAC, to graduate students?
I think my number one thing that I just want to impress upon my grad students is, to let them know or tell them, don't be an AAC gatekeeper. Anyone who can't meet their daily needs with spoken language alone could benefit from AAC, and that includes part-time AAC users too. I do have a lot of optimism about our rising generation of SLPs. I work with some really great graduate students, and it does seem like they have like good, some foundation, but so hopefully we don't hear these terrible stories, anymore about somebody who had to wait way too long to get access to AAC, because everybody deserves a voice, and they deserve the access to that, young or early professionals, you don't need to wait until you feel like an expert. Just give something a try, and you can fine tune it over time. And if you find a mentor or somebody, collaborate with them, work with that team member to make it even better. But just don't be afraid to get started. Don't stop and wait and see how things are going. Just get started.
And I would say, of course, a lot of those same things. Also just learning there's no prerequisites. And so don't let people tell you that there are. And really making sure those caregivers or family members are just an integral part of that system. The SLP, the teachers or, providers all can be great and connected and, collaborating. But if we're not including those family members, I feel like there's a really missed part of that, connection and collaboration. So, really making sure we're family focused, which is hard. It's really hard. I feel like I'm still really striving for this in our, area of schools. And so, I'm constantly thinking, okay, how can we include one more line in the AAC evaluation about what the mom thought, or how can I include one more, thing about, what the dad really thought about this app or whatever, So really want that collaboration with families. And then that ongoing coaching with them as well. I think AAC is different, where it's not just like a little bit that I can teach you about speech and language. It's just kind of ongoing because there is so much and it's changing, right? And so I think it's just ongoing collaboration. I was really scared of that at first, to be really honest, with families. And I loved AAC, but I was just really scared of parents. And so probably, you know, big apologies to those first couple of kids that I did get the devices for, because I was too scared to train their families. I'll be really honest. And now I just think, oh my gosh, I missed that opportunity. It's still there for me, you know, whatever. But I think just letting people know that you don't have to be scared. There's so many resources out there. And there's people that want to help, like us. You know, we want you to be more confident and knowing that it's okay to do it scared, but just don't stay there, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. I feel like that is a good pump up for any graduate student. Yeah, I totally agree. I think especially like working in schools, you're not used to working with parents a whole lot, so it can feel really daunting. But yes, I just want to echo, there are lots of great parent resources that I think like pull the pressure off, because like I know I like have a couple go-tos that I print off like every AAC training, and it's just nice. I don't have to worry about it. I follow the guide, I send the parents home with it, and then it's so much easier to follow up after that because I've built the foundation. But yeah, and also doing things a little bit scared and not staying there. Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, do you guys have any other things you want to add before we wrap it up?
So yeah, all of our resources for Storytime that we talked about, slides that we've given, and all of the links and books, all of that stuff, even like a template for a planner that you can just start filling in all of your dates and whatever you need. It's all there. Also, the original training for when we heard about this program from from AAC in the Cloud back in 2024. Definitely want to just make sure, you know, we shout out that original resource. Candace even has some great videos of what not to do as an SLP.
Oh, I love it.
Those. So I definitely wanted to share those because she has spent some good time creating those for anybody. So I think those are great. And then I also think another really, really important thing that I have learned the most for AAC especially is just connection. I think when I really was in before I got into this AAC field, or just like as an AT specialist, just as a campus SLP, I felt really alone in my job because, you know, a lot of times we're like the only one at our school and there's all these teachers that have, you know, time to collaborate and you're just kind of there a lot of times. I don't know, that's how I felt. Yeah. And so I want to encourage people, one, I want to keep people in the field and I don't want you to get burnt out. But two, you're not alone. You know, there's always SLPs that are doing something similar to what you're doing. So reach out, get connected. Don't feel alone when there's so many of us, especially now with social media. You know, you can stay connected really well. Because we need good people in the field to stay. So
yes, agreed. Okay, I have all those resources. I'm looking at them now on my laptop. I'll make sure those get shared and put with show notes. And then if you guys want to follow along, Cici is at Texas AAC on Instagram, and you can connect with her that way, and I'll share her email as well. And then Candace is at Candace_Hayden_AAC, and I'll connect her email with the show notes as well. So go follow along. They're sharing lots of good AAC stuff. And yeah, just connect with us. And we're just so thankful that you listened today. So we hope that you have a renewed excitement and interest in connecting literacy with AAC and with your community. And yeah, we would love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. So thank you so much, you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Randi.
Thanks so much. Yes,
thank you. Okay. Popping us out. Yay, you guys, that was super smooth. I don't think we're gonna have to make any cuts. That was great.
Nice.
Great.
You guys are professionals.
Okay. We do need to link Candace or Mrs. Blobbing videos. I just really don't have a link for that.
Do you know where they are?
I really wanted those in there. because I love those.
Yeah. You feel free to keep adding what you want into the document, and then I'll copy and paste it all over to Chris, and he'll, like I said, he'll take care of it. He'll know what to do with it and make it in the show notes.